Part 1. Observing the physical condition. 1. Judge the centering of the design. The more centered the stamp is inside the white perforation border, the better. You want the stamp to have an overall balanced, neat look. 2. Turn the stamp over and look at the gum. Stamp gum is the glue that sticks the stamp onto paper. You'll want the gum to be as perfect as possible, with no skips or heavy creases. 3. Check for a stamp hinge. A stamp hinge is a small, transparent piece of folded paper coated in mild adhesive, sometimes glued on the back of a stamp and used to attach it to an album page. A stamp hinge will make the stamp less valuable, even after it's been removed. If your stamp has a stamp hinge attached, call a stamp dealer or expert before attempting to pull it off on your own, as you could damage the stamp further. 4. Look at the neatness of the perforations. Perforations are the small holes punched along the edges of a stamp that help you peel it away from the sheet. Some stamps will have more perforations or larger circles, but what matters most is that they have full teeth and clean holes. 5. Look for a cancellation mark. If a stamp has been used, it will be stamped with a cancellation mark over the design. The heavier the cancellation mark, the lower the value of your stamp. You want to make sure it doesn't blot or cover the stamp's design. 6. Evaluate the stamp's coloring. You want your stamp's design to be bright and vibrant. Fading color can be caused by things like sunlight or artificial light, dirt, pollution, or skin oils. 7. Determine the stamp grade. Based on the centering of the stamp design and the heaviness of the cancellation mark, you'll be able to get an idea of the stamp grade. There are a few possibilities for grade: poor, average, fine, very fine, and superb mint condition. Essentially, the worse the centering of the design and the heavier the cancellation mark on the stamp, the closer to a poor grade it will receive. Superb grades are quite rare, since the stamp must be perfect in all aspects. 8. Leave the stamp on its envelope if it's still attached. You don't want to risk damaging the stamp by pulling it off or cutting it away. Sometimes an old, used stamp on an envelope with a special cancellation will have a higher value than the stamp would have unused and unattached. Ask an expert at a stamp show or get a professional appraisal to see if the stamp should be removed. Part 2. Determining history and rarity. 1. Figure out the age of the stamp. Easier said than done. You may be able to determine the age based on clues in the design. Look for historical events or figures, or try to pick out words on the stamp. Exact years are not typically printed on stamps, so it can be quite difficult to figure out exactly how old your stamp is. Head to an expert stamp dealer if you need extra help. The older the stamp is, the more valuable it will be, so it's worth the extra effort. Stamps printed within the last 70 years, even those in mint condition, probably won't be valued any higher than they were originally. 2. Determine the stamp's country of origin. As with the stamp's age, look for historical figures or events on the stamp, or words. Knowing the language can help you narrow down the country. A picture of Queen Victoria, for example, is probably from 19th early 20th century Great Britain, while a picture of the Hoover Dam may be mid-century American. 3. Identify the stamp with a reference book. Depending on your stamp, it might be easier to identify it before you try to determine the age and country of origin. After you've looked over the stamp's physical condition, you'll know enough about it to be able to find it in a reference book. American stamp collectors often use the Scott Specialized Catalog, now available in an e-book format as well, while British philatelists tend to use the Stanley Gibbons Catalog. Check out your local library to see what options you have. You can try looking at online resources and catalogs as well, but do so with a grain of salt. They may not be as accredited or accurate as reference books. 4. Determine the rarity of the stamp. The stamp's rarity will depend on its age and quantity in its initial print run. The rarer the stamp, the higher the value. Some stamp collectors even say that rarity is the single most important factor in determining stamp value, more than condition or age. Check in reference books or with a professional dealer to figure out the initial print run of your stamp. An old stamp won't necessarily be rare and valuable. The 1,861 1-cent Benjamin Franklin stamps, for example, aren't very valuable because about 150 million of them were produced. 5. Keep an eye out for error stamps. Though in general you want your stamp to be as perfect as possible, error stamps are an exception. These rare stamps have an error in the design rather than the centering, perforations, etc. Error stamps are extremely valuable because of their scarcity.